What if you didn't have to choose between pizza night and progress, between enjoying your travels and staying on track with your health? Today's guest, Lisa Franz, is here to flip the script on food guilt, all or nothing diets, and the exhausting loop of good or bad eating days. As a certified nutrition coach and podcast host who has traveled to over 53 countries and currently living in Bolivia, Lisa has mastered the art of sustainable nutrition without sacrificing joy, culture, or connection. But her journey started in a very familiar place, stuck between restriction and chaos, dieting and screw it moments. That's what makes her so good at what she does today. In this episode, we're diving into how to build a life you love and a body you love, how to recognize real hunger signals again, and why being a food role model for the next generation is one of the most important, powerful things you can do. If you've ever felt stuck in the food drama, wondering if you need to give up fun or flavor for flat abs, or if balance is even real, this one is for you. But before we dive into this episode, you already know what time it is. Vibe with me, y'all. Welcome to the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast. Y'all, welcome back to another episode of the Empowered Plates, Empowered Lives podcast, the safe space where survival mode ends and your healing journey begins. So if you've been pushing through pain, fatigue, bloating, or hormone chaos, I want you to know your body isn't broken. It's speaking. Y'all, it's your Healthy Habits and Lifestyle Coach Jovonnie. Welcome to the Good Vibes Studio, Miss Lisa.
Woohoo! Thanks for having me. What a wonderful introduction. I'm super pumped to speak with you, to speak with the audience, and about all the things we're going to talk about.
Yes, ma'am. So, Lisa, your work is all about helping people feel good in their bodies and live their full lives. Can you walk us through your personal breaking point and what shifted for you around food?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, as you introduced me so nicely, I've always loved travel. I've always loved being social. I've loved experiencing and loving life in that way. But at the same time, as most people, I also wanted to look good, feel good, and, have a body that you're sort of proud of and just performing your best and living your best life in. But I always felt like those two things were in opposition, one of the other. Like you could either enjoy a social meal or have a nice body. And so I put myself through various diets, restriction over restriction, planning my next binge weekend or whatever it was. And I just felt so mentally and actually also physically restricted. And it was just not a good cycle. I was going through this all or nothing thing. Many things were completely off limit and I would beat myself up about them if I would have had them. And then on the flip side, over restricting and just starving myself. And at one point, to your question of when was my breaking point, I vividly remember standing in a food court in Thailand on my honeymoon, and I had just done a really hard workout and wanted to obviously refuel. I was hangry by that point, and I looked around and I was like, I can't eat that. That has rice. And in my food rules, my very long list of food rules, it was like no carbs. Next place was like, I can't have that. That thing is deep fried. I can't have the next thing because it contains sugar. So I literally started crying in the middle of this food court and just thought, I can't have any of this. This cannot be the way to live. Like all these rules placed upon myself, where actually all this food is beautiful, but I just couldn't, I felt like I couldn't get out of my own skin. And so it took a little while longer, but in that moment, I basically decided I'm going to go on a quest of finding out how I can make that balance work, because there has to be a better way. And thankfully, I really learned in a logical, strategic, non-dogmatic, non-judgmental kind of way to achieve a body composition that I liked. So basically losing body fat, gaining some muscle mass to look more defined and shaped. And ever since then, I have been on a mission to teach other people that it doesn't have to be one or the other, and that you can truly achieve what I call food freedom. So yeah, we want to eat, 80-90% really high quality foods most of the time, nourishing our bodies, fueling our bodies. But if 10-20% of the time you allow yourself to have something that might be a little bit higher in calories, that might be, not necessarily advantageous for your health, that's absolutely fine, because the mental component, the enjoyment component, the social component is also so important for even just like living well from the inside out.
Man, I really appreciate you walking us through that moment. Like, I felt like I was in Thailand. I could smell the food. Never been there before, but I could smell it. I can see it, and it's looking all good. And you're like, none of this aligns with what I know my body absolutely needs, especially after I just did a whole workout. Like, is this really the treat that I want to give my body
Exactly.
after going through something so intensive? And so, but that crying moment, I resonated with that too, because it's as if you, for me, it was a moment of thinking about all the things I can't have or I
Hmm.
shouldn't have. And
Hmm.
that was a pre mindset that I had before I started shifting my own journey and changing my lifestyle. So for me, it was like, oh, I can't have the gluten, I can't have the dairy, I can't have the meat, I can't have the, and it was all the things that I couldn't have. And it was just like, I can't. And I was like, this isn't the way it's going to be. Like, I'm already, got diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and they found 2 fibroids at the time of my surgery in March 2020. I didn't even realize all these things were going on in my body, this high inflamed state. I thought I was living healthy, and it took that 4-hour surgery. And I was just like, they said diet could help. I was told diet could help. And so that's when I started changing it. But it was all this I can't have. And it was that unrealistic food rules, the words you just changed, food rules, that was keeping my body still in a stuck, painful state, because I still wasn't thinking and shifting and believing what food could really do and having a different relationship with food. I was still, in a way, grieving and mad about leaving that old state to embrace a new state, because that's what I deserved and what my body deserved. And so that crying moment for me was just like, when you said it, I was just like, I remember that, because something had to shift, in order for me to show up better. And for me, it was getting excited about the things that I could have, because as I continued to embrace the journey, I saw what foods resonated with my body, what movement better resonated with my body, that reduced the pain, reduced the fatigue, like got me excited, got me energized. And I was like, this isn't that bad after all. But it takes time to get to that, like you said, food freedom, right? So you've tried both ends of the spectrum, rigid diets, eating whatever approaches. What finally helped you find your center again when it came to navigating food?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of all the things that you just said. So first and foremost, changing those internal beliefs and realizing that, hey, if I have a little bit of carbs, I'm not going to wake up fat the next day. Actually, I actually feel better. I actually sleep better. And look at that, I actually also perform better. And also, I am not suddenly going to blow up and gain 5 pounds overnight if I have a little bit of brownie. It is if I, eat 7 pieces of it, that yes. So I kind of like proved to myself slowly and gradually that moderation was absolutely the key when it comes to everything. And building further on that point of the language that we use, just approaching things exactly as you were saying, from a way of like, how can I nourish and fuel my body better because I love it, and not because I'm angry at my body for responding in a certain way, or because I think I'm supposed to be having this and that and I don't actually want to, and it's kind of like a punishment and I need to work something off if I have something different. But rather thinking of, what should I have more of? I really like how you phrased that, because that's also how I started working with people. Like, don't ask me as the first question, like, what can I not have? What do I need to cut out? What is forbidden? And rather, let's just see, like, okay, maybe we're not eating as many vegetables as we should. Can we add some more greens to your lunch? Could we add a little bit of blueberries to your breakfast? Is that something that's possible? And how can we do that consistently? Oh, look, if we do that, we automatically eat less of the other stuff and automatically eat less of the processed stuff. Cool. So let's even build on that further, how can we add more hydration so that you're not as hungry or as craving as much sugar naturally as well? And all these things, like how can we add more things? How can we add a little bit of movement so that your hunger is automatically regulated a little bit better? How can we go for a walk after a meal, perhaps, so that your blood sugar is regulated a bit better as well? I think that's a wonderful approach that you mentioned, and that really did the trick for me as well. Like because I think with that you're also building confidence in yourself and that you can stick with something, because all these food rules, they're not sustainable. And then often people think, and I was in that same boat, and some of my clients or people that approached me initially, there was like, oh, I need more willpower, I'm not strong enough to do that, and I failed on this and that before, and I should, like, basically again whipping yourself into like submission, I'm not strong enough, and all that negative talk. But when you do something small and you're like, this isn't so bad, I can actually do that, you're more you're proud of what you did. You're not suddenly noticing like, oh, I should be doing 10 other things because it's not, perfect. And getting out of that perfectionistic mindset and just accepting, hey, yeah, there are days where we're probably messing up a little bit or not performing as well as we should, but that's okay. Let's just move on. Tomorrow's another day. And that's basically it.
I love it because I like that the way you phrase it, changing internal beliefs. And that's the real shift. That's the first part that really puts things in action. When you truly change the internal beliefs, then you start seeing things get better. Once you start seeing things get better, I don't know about you, Lisa, you might have clients who've done this. I've seen people in Facebook groups. I know other people personally, they start seeing the benefits, but then they're like, okay, but I kind of still want to go back to how I was living. Like, I still want to kind of go back to my familiar, my comfort zone. Like, even though I see benefits, I see the growth, I see the momentum picking up, I kind of want to go back. Anybody can go back and see, can you keep the same benefits even if I don't keep doing the same thing? And it's just like, let that be your momentum. Let it show you that now, like you said, you have the confidence to start doing things within your own power to make things better for yourself. So why not lean a little bit more into it and then see some of those things that's making you go back as maybe self-sabotaging behaviors or habits, and then kind of figure out, what should I need, what should I shift, what should I change, what about me needs to change, what belief do I need to like really talk to, process, dig a little deeper, address at the root, and get that thing out of there. Like, I really like that you talked about that, Lisa. But the big thing for me is when you talk about what can we add versus what can we take away consistently. That's the biggest thing, because everyone feels like they got to lose something, give something away, sacrifice something to be a newer version of themselves, when it's really, what can I add to this, build up my confidence, see the consistency, and then I start having this natural taste to want to do things that are better for me, that sooner or later, those other things that are not necessarily helpful, that might be hindering, that might be causing my pain, my inflammation, me being stuck, me not being able to shift my belief patterns, really hold me hostage within my own lifestyle. Like, I love when you talked about what can we add versus taking away. And it's always one thing, Lisa. It's always just one thing, and not try to overhaul your whole life, like, because there's so many things you can do. But if you start trying to do all the things, you'll never really get good at the one thing that builds the confidence, builds the rhythm, and helps you really, truly start healing within your own power.
Oh, 100,000%, really. And there are so many aspects to what you're saying. So firstly, yeah, that change of identity is hard. It is hard. I will be the first to put my hand up for that. And unfortunately, so often we have conflicting beliefs or conflicting desires. Rather, we're like, oh, I want to have that dream body and I want to have it all. And when I said earlier, yeah, you can have both. You can have a great body and you can be social, but that doesn't mean you can eat unlimited amounts, and it doesn't mean that I can gorge myself all the time. Like, we do need to be reasonable about things. And what I unfortunately often have to be the bearer of bad news of is, if we just do what is considered quote unquote normal, then we're going to have a body that's quote unquote normal, meaning overweight, meaning very prone to diabetes and other diseases, cardiovascular diseases, etc. So if we're just like, oh, I want to fit in with my friends and I want to eat exactly as they are, I want to, drink with them and live carefree and eat all the junk that's always promoted on TV, then you're going to have that kind of body and health too. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. We do have to get more comfortable with being a little bit out of the norm. And it is so sad, in my opinion, that nowadays eating well is looked at as not normal. It should be the norm to eat vegetables, to eat whole foods, to eat, foods that nourish your body. And it shouldn't be the norm that we're eating all these super highly processed foods all the time, like cereal for breakfast, lunch sandwiches with nothing but processed crap and hardly any nutrition in that, a muffin for afternoon coffee, and then some frozen pizza for dinner, and throw in some chips for dessert. All of these things are so highly processed but are considered normal. Whereas if you're like, oh, well, I had a great smoothie for breakfast, and then I had some fruit with my coffee in the morning, and then I had a bowl of salad for lunch, and I had, I don't know, that's often more like, oh, are you on a diet? And you're like, no, that should be considered normal. So while I do want to encourage people to live a full life, a happy life, a satisfied life, we do need to acknowledge we need to do something different than what the majority of people are doing, or also often what we have done in the past, because it led us to where we were feeling uncomfortable. So that realization in and of itself is often painful, because we all want to fit in. We all just want to be carefree and not stress about our food and not have to plan our food out. But if we just go about it and go with the flow and wing it all the time, we only have the foods available to us that are available when you're winging it, when you can order, or when like if you stop at the gas station and you get your convenience things that are usually highly processed. And so we need to plan a little bit more ahead. We do need to be more comfortable with the idea of like, what if I become the person in my family or in my friend group that is known for being healthy? At first, that might sound uncomfortable, but maybe after a while, they're like, oh, okay, Jovonnie is coming for dinner. I guess we may not go to the pizza place. Maybe we can go to this Buddha bowl place instead. Okay, cool. Because then she will like that as well. Or, we're throwing a dinner party. Let's make sure we're having maybe some vegetable dips for appetizers, as opposed to the fried chicken wings, or whatever. So like you become known as that person, and people are starting to accept that, appreciate that, and maybe even join in and ask you about, hey, what are you doing? Your skin looks different. Hey, you look so much more energized. It's not even about the size, it's about what you're radiating from the inside out. And I do think, while that's often very difficult when you're the first one in your circle changing, or if you're the only one in your circle changing, I can only say seek out community online, or seek out someone somewhere who can hold you accountable, because walking those steps completely on your own, especially in the beginning, is very tough, and you are going to get pushed back, just because that has nothing to do with you. Like, remember, it has absolutely nothing to do with you. It has to do with the other people that are perhaps also uncomfortable in their body, or that are just like not familiar with what you're doing. So try to let that not even enter your head, and just do you, and keep focusing on your why, on your goals, and you're going to inspire people along the way.
Yeah, I really love that you said, remember your why, and don't take other people's opinions, thoughts, words about you get into you, because you know your why. And I agree with you. Like it should be the norm, but it's absolutely not. And it makes you think, like, when is fruit not food? When is like the things that you are choosing to consume not something that you should already have? Like, I definitely could relate to that moment, because before I became plant-based, I definitely was pescatarian. I only ate seafood. And then after a while, I kept the seafood, but I took out the dairy. So it was layers to it. It was a journey. It took years of really shifting my lifestyle. But that endometriosis, adenomyosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome, and fibroids, that 4-hour surgery that was supposed to be 1 hour when I didn't even know anything was going on, that was like, I have to be more intentional. Something has to truly change, and I need to know the why behind what I'm changing. And if I didn't want to feel that pain anymore, and I didn't want to have a potential another surgery or see more scar tissue, more things, coming up in my body, I knew I needed to change what was happening on the inside, not just what I thought and what I felt and what I saw on the outside. And I'm with you. Like, the more intentional I got with it, the more comfortable I became, because I started truly enjoying the journey to the point where I didn't have to defend what I was eating, how I was living, because I knew what the vibe was, what I was actually feeling. And so that is what I want for you. So if you've ever been eating healthy, but still dealing with bloating, fatigue, or sugar cravings, it's not your willpower. It's hidden inflammation in the foods that you're choosing. That's why I created the Plant-Based Alternative Guide, your go-to resource for simple swaps that actually support hormone balance, reduce inflammation, and help you feel lighter without giving up the flavor. So inside, you'll find healing juices and smoothies that restore balance, anti-inflammatory food swaps that support the bloating cycle, and then easy plant-based meals that make your body feel safe again. So you can go and grab your copy. It's in the show notes. But y'all, the biggest thing about this guide is it gives you the functional nutrition background that says, oh, I'm choosing this grain instead of your regular white rice because I'm getting these nutrients from it. Oh, so I'm eating a little bit more with a purpose. So I keep the same thought and the meal approach of something that I love, but I'm just switching it with a different grain, with a different fruit, with a different vegetable, because I'm eating with more intention, because it's more beneficial for my body, for my life, because I want to flourish and nourish. So Lisa, I want to get into this because you've helped people stop gaining weight and actually stay consistent. But what's really going on with the people who lose weight and then regain it again?
Oh, yes. As a population, we're actually all pretty good at losing weight, and most of the listeners probably have lost weight at some point in their lives. But unfortunately, also over 85% of those people that lose weight gain it back as well. And there are many reasons for that. One of them being we don't change the identity along the way. We do go about it too aggressively, where we're like, oh, I'm cutting down, half of what I'm eating from 2,500 calories to 1,200, super unsustainable. So even from a physiological perspective, your body is going to send you super high hunger signals after a while, and you're just gaining it all back that way. So if we are going about it in more moderate approaches and step by step, and building the habits along the way, keeping the why at the forefront. But there are really, in my opinion, two overarching themes that I tend to see. So people lose weight, and either they just say, okay, I've lost the weight now, I'm going back to my previous habits and just how I was eating beforehand. No problem, because from the beginning on, they were just looking at it as like a 16-week or 12-week or 8-week or whatever diet, as opposed to a lifestyle change where they're also addressing their sleep, their stress, their movement, and all of these things that are so interconnected. And of course, the mindset that we talked about. And so if we already have a short-term view from the beginning onwards, it's basically setting ourselves up for failure, because we are by definition saying, like, I'm only keeping that for a short amount of time, then I'm going back to what I was doing. And really, like, from a physiological perspective, literally at the end of a weight loss phase, our body wants us to gain the weight back, if not more, to set us up for survival in a future hunger instance. So that is why going straight into quote unquote intuitive eating after a diet is actually quite a bad of an idea, because the hunger signals are just skewed and your body will want to put on more weight again. So I think we first have to learn again how to intuitively eat, because if in our modern day environment, with all the stressors, with all the highly processed foods, where people have put thousands, if not more, dollars into the process of like, how can we get Jovonnie to want to eat more of this, and then Frankenstein engineer this food in a way that it messes with your brain. So if we just intuitively eat, we are basically doomed if we've never learned it before. No, if you eat a plant-based diet and you are mostly eating whole foods and you eat intuitively that way, that's a different story, but you have learned how to do that properly beforehand. The other scenario that I tend to see is people go on a diet, lose weight, and then they're so terrified of eating more again. So if we lose weight, by definition, obviously we're consuming less calories, less energy than what our body is burning. Otherwise, we wouldn't be losing weight. And so if we get to our goal weight, to where we want to be, and we just keep the calories so low, that is not good long term either, because our metabolism is starting to down regulate. It's like, okay, we're basically going to go into a bit of a standby mode here. It's sort of as if you have a laptop off of charge for a long amount of time, then it's going to stop running the backup processes. It's going to stop having such a bright screen, etc. So that's kind of what's happening with your metabolism. It doesn't break. We can't break your metabolism, but it down regulates and adapts. And so what used to be your calorie deficit after a while becomes your maintenance calories. So if you want to lose weight again in the future, where do you go? You go even lower, you go even lower. And that's where at some point, oftentimes like women in their 40s and 50s especially come to me and they're like, I'm eating so little, but nothing is working anymore. And that's because they have been chronically under eating for such a long amount of time. So first, we need to reestablish their metabolic health. And on top of that, if we just keep the calories so low, we start seeing hormonal issues, of course, not to speak of how crappy we feel overall, but our libido is low, our energy over the day is low, our performance physically, but also mentally is low. And so we don't want to keep the calories so low and permanently. We really have to develop an exit strategy. And so basically, slowly and gradually, strategically bringing up the calories again so that you're eating the same amount as you're burning in order to maintain the weight. Those are kind of the two angles. And so I really think, especially exiting a weight loss phase is a very important point where guidance from someone like yourself or me or even a group program or so can be really, really, really not just helpful, but actually often crucial if you have never done that yourself before.
Like that. And I'm so grateful you hit so many different components to it. I think the biggest part was what you said, diet versus lifestyle. People choose a diet challenge or approach just for a set amount of days. And that's what they're already around. That's what their preset is on their mindset is I'm going to do this for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 75 days. And I'm only committing to this for 75 days. I may or may not want to do this afterwards, but right now I'm only committing to this right now to make it work. And which I think is good because it can definitely help jumpstart people to see the benefits of what change really looks like. But again, I like that you said it's more than diet. It's your lifestyle. It's the stress. How are you eliminating or managing the stress? What is your sleeping habits? How are you hydrating? As well as what are you eating? I call it my M to the third degree healing empowerment formula: mindset, mindful eating, and movement. And those were the main pillars for me to really see my whole lifestyle start to shift in a healthier way that allowed me to reduce the pelvic pain, have lighter periods, less painful periods, reduce the bloat, and really get me moving and grooving. Walking was absolutely phenomenal for me. And I had done different ways of movement before, Lisa, like HIIT exercises or do like the boot camps and the Groupons with the different ways that you could be working out for a set period of time and grab a friend to get the same Groupon, or it's a buy one get one, so you're not doing it all by yourself again, just for this set amount of time with no exit strategy afterwards to say, this is who what did you say before? Identity, who I plan to become, because this is who I need to be for the life I know I deserve. And so I'm really glad that you talked about the diet versus lifestyle. But I love when you came back to how to intuitively eat. And it kind of goes back to when we talked about being a food role model, and truly understanding why we're eating, what we're getting from the foods we're eating, and how it's benefiting us and addressing us by the way our body is speaking to us, aka signals, symptoms, and what it's saying. And so I really like that, because for me, I thought mindful eating was just me being literally mindful of what I was eating. But I took a mindful eating certification program, and it really showed me how people need to find a way to have a healthy relationship with food, and what that healthy relationship with food looked like for me helped me start eating more intuitively, but be more purposeful in what I was eating. That led me then into a functional nutritional program. And Lisa, I had the health promotion background, the health administration background. I had the degrees, but nobody gave me the class that really showed me what this would look like in a lifestyle. It told you how to help prevent people from being sick, but it didn't go into depths on what you're actually getting from these nutrients. How does this look like and play in your life, in the role of your life with all the different phases of the cycle? Look at where we are now. Not quite sure your age, but having that menstrual cycle and then moving into peri, and then after peri comes what? And it's just like the different hormonal changes. And when you have this hormonal changes happening on one side of your body as you continue to age, but then you have this high rate of inflammation that is wreaking havoc in all your body signals and symptoms because you're steadily inflamed, not just from food, but stress, no movement, all these other things. It's like, we need to pause and figure out what exactly is truly happening and relearn this thing called living. And so that you broke that down, but then even being honest with people being terrified to eat again, because once you've seen the benefits, psychologically, you need that support. Lisa, talk to the people, because you definitely hit a gem, because I feel like I've heard this several times. People just say, well, I don't need no one to help me eat better or live better. I just need to change what I eat and just exercise. Talk to the people that might be a little stuck thinking that they shouldn't invest or find a place to where they should get guided support, coaching to really help them relearn how to eat intuitively, how to really shift their lifestyle to be a better person and get something out that they never even thought they could have.
Yeah, I really think that's a big mistake if you think that you can just out exercise your poor diet. I mean, you are the best person to prove of that. It has to come from the inside out, and everything that we eat is either nourishing our body or can be detrimental to our body. Not to be fear mongering here, but yeah, it's also so easy to eat 1,000, 2,000 calories and quote unquote burning that off, which is a mindset we shouldn't even have, but that takes way longer. Like, if you trust your calorie tracker on your watch, do not trust that, because they're most of the time wrong. Even if you work out very hard for an hour, trust me, you're not burning 1,000 calories. So yeah, not a good attitude to have. And I really think what you said about mindfulness is the attitude that we all need to have, because in the end, for me, mindfulness is nothing else other than doing more single tasking. So even when it comes to eating, when it comes to driving, anything that we're doing less things simultaneously, because it takes away from the present moment. And that is really a big thing also when it comes to helping your body digest, when it comes to actually helping your body send you satiation signals, when it comes to just appreciating your food more. Because if you sit down, you take 3 deep breaths, and you eat your food, you chew slowly, you maybe even put your fork down between bites, and you smell the food, you look at the food undistracted, you're not scrolling, you're not talking on the phone, you're not watching TV, maybe you're having a conversation, but that is it. You're going to enjoy that meal so much more than if you're eating in the car or maybe even walking around while you're doing a million other things and you're like, oh, where did my food just go? I didn't even notice I was eating, because you're literally, by definition, not in a rest and digest sort of state. So your body is having a hard time actually registering, oh, we just ate something and we're supposed to be digesting that. I thought we were supposed to focus on walking and talking and at the same time planning out what we're going to do in 5 minutes time. So like, your body is not a multitasking machine. It might be able to cope with that, but it's not going to optimize any of those things. So if the listener really just wants to walk away with one actionable thing, it would be to do less multitasking. And even if that just starts with putting something into your mind of like, I'm no longer going to eat in the car or while I'm walking, that would be an amazing first start. Or even just taking 3 deep breaths before you eat. You deserve, no matter how busy you are, how many people you have to look after, if you're listening to this, you deserve to take a break to eat. You don't need to do it while you're working on your desk. You don't need to do it while you're trying to help your kids eat. You too deserve to fully just focus on your food for 5 minutes time. That cannot be too much to ask, truly. So yeah, I think having guidance with that. And I mean, in the sense of mindset, in the sense of movement, and in the sense of what you're putting into your body is so, so helpful. And my company is Nutrition Coaching and Life. So we have a podcast as well. It's the Nutrition and Life podcast. And under that name, you can also find me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, any platform. But no, for me, the most important thing is just that you're reaching out to someone, finding a group somewhere. And if my content helps you with that, then that's even better. But yeah, I really think community and guidance is so important. And especially as women, we often think we need to white knuckle it. I can do that. I can look things up on Google or ChatGPT or whatever, like all the information is there. But it usually does not just come down to the information. We don't have a lack of information. We have a lack of consistency. We have a lack of execution. We have a lack of addressing the underlying issues. And that's what someone like Jovonnie or I can absolutely help you with.
Come on with the underlying issues that you may not even know anything about. That might just be you stuck in survival mode. But y'all, make sure you go and follow Lisa, subscribe to her podcast. And if you're not subscribed to the Empire Place, Empire Lives podcast, make sure you go ahead and hit subscribe if you're watching us on the video version of this episode. And if you're not and you're listening on your favorite podcast distribution platform, follow the show and give it a rating, but also know to dive in and hit up Lisa too and tune into what she is talking about. Y'all, it's all about experience and education, which should empower you to go out there and live your best life. Get so curious about what the conversation is talking about to do your research and then take some action. All right. Action. So Lisa, I kind of want to go into the people pleasing, because I struggled with this growing up as a child, moving into that childhood thought process into adulthood. And I could really start seeing right before my body just had enough of me being inflamed, had enough of me not listening to it, had enough of me living a way that I shouldn't have been living. Talk to people about how we can be more aware of those triggers when people pleasing starts leading to food issues that start leading to lifestyle issues that they don't even know what's happening. Can you give us some more insight on how people can be more aware of those triggers?
It is very tricky. I will absolutely say that and admit that, because so often, especially our moms and grandmas, they show love through the way of food. That is point number one, where we're like, oh, I've cooked that just for you, and you've come over for a visit, and now you're only having, like, my grandma is someone like that. If I come and visit her, initially it was like, Lisa, you only had 2 helpings. You didn't like the food that I cooked. I was like, I had 2. And she's like, well, but 10 years ago you had 3. I'm like, well, I'm full now. I'm listening more to my hunger cues. And it really took me a while to be able to speak with her in an open way and be like, Grandma, I really enjoyed that, but if I eat more, I'm going to feel bad about it and not have enjoyed it as much. I'm more than happy to take a serving home and enjoy it even more tomorrow. Thank you so much for going through the trouble of cooking it just for me. I really, 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 really appreciate it. So very often it is how we talk about certain things. And a difficult thing for us to learn as people pleasers is no is a full sentence, is a complete sentence. And technically you don't owe anybody an explanation as to why. However, as people pleasers, we usually like to give an explanation, or excuse, I'd rather an explanation. And so if we go about it in a positive way, as opposed to saying, oh, no, I can't have that, I'm on a diet, you're already implying that is something negative that you don't actually want to do. And you're encouraging people that way to push even more, to be like, oh, come on, just this once, it's okay, just make an excuse today, it's your birthday, it's this person's birthday or whatever. But if you say, oh, I've decided to take a bit more care of my health, and I've actually noticed that if I have dairy, I don't feel that great. I'm sorry. Next time I'll bring something that everybody can have, and we can all enjoy a dairy-free, whatever. Like, it's just, but it's how you talk about it. I've decided, point, that I'm going to take care of my health, point, and I don't feel good with this. If you come from a place of I feel, or I don't feel, I feel full already, I don't feel good if I have another serving. nobody can argue with that, because that's how you feel. They can't tell you, no, you don't. Like, right? It's just, how do you talk about that? And likewise, you don't want to put other people down. If other people choose to have 5 servings, if they choose to have half a pizza, don't be like, oh, you shouldn't eat that or whatever. Like, no, if people want to join in with what you're doing, but we should never do that from a condescending, looking down kind of place. Do what feels good to you and stick with that. So I think that's really important, to learn to say no more often, to learn to or to teach other people as well that you having less of than what you used to, or saying no in the moment, has nothing to do with them, and you still appreciate them putting effort into their meals and cooking just for you, but really having that open conversation, as opposed to being sort of like secretive about it and negative about it. I think that that's really, really, really important. And in the end, recognizing also that if people keep pushing, again, it has nothing to do with you, it has to do with them. And just think of how you're going to feel about your choice in 5 hours or tomorrow. And by that point, that person has forgotten about it long. And as opposed to you giving in, and you're going to feel bad about it in a few hours or tomorrow, because you're bloated, or because you didn't do what actually felt good to you, and they won't even remember it. So do what your future self will have wished that you would have done. I think that that's often really important when we think of people pleasing. And in the end, if we put ourselves first, and if we stick with what makes us feel good, people actually start respecting that even more. So yeah, I think it's a hard thing to learn, but it's something that can be practiced. And again, we build confidence with that, because every time you say no, when you want to say no, you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. They looked a little bit weird for a few minutes, but they moved on, and here we are. So yes, practice.
I thank you for that. Stick with what you know that is making you feel good. I absolutely jot that down. I don't know if anyone else caught that, but if you did, stick with it. Stick with it in the comments for us. If you're still vibing with us in this conversation, stick with what makes you feel good. Something that you said really stood out to me, was about when people make stuff for you. You talked about like your grandma, and you see 3 servings before. You didn't like it, you only had 2. And you talked about hunger cues, and I want to get into the hunger cues. But before that, you talked about being bloated, not feeling good. And so my mom made a meal. It was plant-based for me. And she made it, but she, did some sauteed greens, onions, bell peppers, and stuff. But I think she used different things when she was seasoning it. And I feel like it was better than bouillon or something similar to that, to give it this extra flavor. And when I tell you, Lisa, I got so bloated that I looked probably, I'm going to say 8 months pregnant. And I went and I showed my mom. She was like, Jovonnie, that was too fast. No one can get bloated that fast after eating. I was like, Ma, there's something called endo belly. It's something that kind of happens with people who have but their body is kind of feeling the conditions of what we have. And there's easy triggers when you have some of the things that are happening in your body, that it doesn't have to take hours, a day for you to get bloated after eating or consuming something. It was delicious, but I'm going to let you know that it was nothing else that I ate today. It wasn't my juice. It wasn't my smoothie. It wasn't the salad that I had, but it had to have been something that was prepared inside of this meal that caused the bloat. And I had to kind of show her that it could take 15 minutes for me to get bloated and have that endo belly, even though it wasn't painful. And some people's endo belly gets very painful. Mine wasn't, but it was huge, Lisa. And I asked her, I got upstairs and she was like, why are you poking your stomach? I was like, this is no poking. This is natural. This is what happened after I ate. How many months do I look to you? Because clearly she's had me. She's at my brother's, but I've never been pregnant before. And she was like, well, I mean, it just depends on the person. But I guess 8 months. And I was just like, okay. And I didn't do it to make her feel bad or anything, but I wanted to show her that it doesn't matter who you are. And we talked about this before too, Lisa. you have to know your body's triggers, and everybody's body is different. So because you see so many things people are saying what worked for them in their body, in their healing journey, doesn't mean it's going to specifically work for you, because your body is different. My endometriosis symptoms are different from other people's endometriosis symptoms. I'm not in pain every single day. But when that pain did hit, it told me something was wrong, which led me down to getting to my diagnosis, which also told me I need to do things differently on what I'm eating, how I'm doing. And so for me, it was not just the people pleasing of eating what everybody else was eating and not making them feel bad, like you told us we don't need to be doing, but it was also realizing, okay, I ate this meal, what was in it, so I can better understand what triggered this symptom that I don't like looking like or feeling like. And so I really appreciated you talking about that. And then before, another gem you said was your body isn't a multitasking thing. Take your time with it. Take your time with it. If your body's not a multitasking thing, you don't have to multitask your healing journey. One thing at a time, one habit at a time, one rhythm at a time. Feel the beat and let it do its thing. Y'all, I hope you are enjoying this conversation with me and Lisa, but I wanted to let you know, if you've been stuck in cycles of pelvic pain, fatigue, bloating, and survival mode, it's not because you're weak. It's because your body is asking for a reset. So in my upcoming live event, 5 costly mistakes keeping you stuck in pelvic pain and fatigue, how to break free naturally, I'll reveal the exact shifts that move you from hormonal chaos and inflammation into clarity, energy, and calm. This is where the guessing ends and your healing begins. Head to the show notes to get your spot. Your body will thank you. So, Lisa, you work with high performers every day and women alike who are wanting the small, sustainable practices that make big differences long term. What are some of those? What are some of those small, sustainable practices that make big difference long term?
Well, many of them we have already sort of touched on, but it really often comes down to addressing the basics. And that sounds so unsexy, and people, they want to have a specific meal plan. They want to be like, oh, if you take the supplement, you're going to feel amazing. But let's just look at your sleep. How many hours are you in bed? That's a first point to look at, but also how deeply are you sleeping? Are you waking up in the middle of the night? Are we having some hormonal imbalances because you wake up at 4 and you can't fall asleep for another hour, or your cortisol is all over the place? So that's often where we really have to start, of like, okay, sleep has to be a priority if we want hormonal health, if we want to have a well-regulated hunger, and so on. In addition to that, often the movement piece really so important too, because even if I work with a lot of people that are like working out quite a bit and they think, I'm eating so well, I'm working out, but I don't look like it and I don't feel like it, what's going on? So sometimes that means they work really hard in the gym for an hour, but they sit all the rest of the day. And that's a little bit of an issue too, because actually something called NEAT, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis, the activity that we do on a daily basis that's not intentional, so gesturing, blinking, sitting, standing, and so on, is actually also really important. And often in our modern day life, that kind of falls short because we are not forced to go anywhere anymore or to do more physical activity on a natural basis. So unfortunately, we have to increase the more intentional aspect of this, like how can we stand more at the desk perhaps, or when you go, when you have a phone call, maybe you can walk at the same time, or if you're catching up with a friend, instead of just sitting down for coffee, maybe you guys can walk through the park with your coffee. And yes, it's kind of sad that we have to be so intentional about even just getting in steps, but it does actually make a really big difference, even just from mental health perspective as well, and not just being locked in all day long. Of course, then we actually also want to look at the social network. Like, do you feel you have a good support system where you have a friend to bitch to if you really need to, or just in general, do you feel quite lonely and like a lack of resources? And how can we increase that? Because there's so much more to food than just here's your meal plan. Like, why are you frustrated eating ice cream on the couch every second night when you're just actually feeling lonely? And we need to kind of work on that a bit more. So those might be the things that we address as like a baseline. But when it comes to the nutrition itself, I think the biggest overarching thing really is to have less processed things. If we're just simply focusing on more foods that have a single ingredient or are minimally processed, let's just say oats. I mean, oats is a processed foods, but minimally processed. Or if you choose to eat dairy, something like a low-fat Greek yogurt or so, also processed, but still can be good for your health if you choose to include dairy. So it really comes down to less processed, more micronutrients, more nutrient dense foods overall. And especially often with these women that are on the go, it is often like, oh, here's a whatever power bar, and then the next thing that's processed. And we sort of tend to starve ourselves throughout the day, and then are surprised when we come home, we're feeling absolutely ravenous and just want to eat the whole fridge. So it is being more intentional about how are we fueling the day so that we don't get these energy crashes and then super high cravings when we come home. I find particularly in the afternoon is actually a really important point, where often having fruit with some kind of protein in a smoothie or whatever it might be is so helpful in helping us curb the craving later on, as opposed to thinking you need to white knuckle your way from lunch to dinner, and then you come home, you still have to take care of the kids, you have to clean up, blah, 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 and then you're fully exhausted. And of course, you then want to self-soothe with food. So we want to avoid getting to that point.
I like it. Sleep priority, movement, nutrition, less processed, more whole foods, nutrient dense. I like it. And it's very intentional, and it's very a deep dive, because you really first need to become aware of what that even looks like right now. Where are you? What's your current state? And then start initiating a shift. Again, small steps before you start building the rhythm based on what's sustainable. I think a lot of times people do a lot of things out of the norm just because they're doing some radical challenge, or they want to do a radical shift just to see how their body responds to it. But it's not sustainable. It's not things that they could see themselves creating a true lifestyle around that they enjoy and love. And so it's really getting to that point, and you sometimes need that guidance, especially if you don't have that education or that experience behind you that already connects the why to what it is that you're doing. So I really, really appreciated that breakdown. Something that I really wanted us to kind of talk about is that we mentioned before about being mindful of what we model for the next generation, being food role models. What's the cost of generational food trauma, and how do we start healing it in ourselves and within our homes?
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I really remember my mom basically putting herself through a very restrictive, it was like cabbage soup diet for like 12 weeks or something like that every single year. And I could tell that she was doing it out of self-loathing. And then I could also tell that beforehand, like she'd usually do that in January. So after gorging herself over Christmas. And so that was stuck in my mind as in, hey, that's normal. Every Christmas you gain weight. Every January you torture yourself. Every time you go on vacation, you gain a bunch of weight. Beforehand, you probably also torture yourself. So we grow up watching mostly our moms, but of course our entire family, of like, how are you dealing with food? How is she talking to her own body? How is she maybe even saying to you, like, oh, Lisa, teenage Lisa, you can't wear that. You look too fat in that. Or so, like, people do hear that or do say that. And most of the time they don't have any malintentions with that. It's just how they have been raised as well. I guess to take that even further also, we're so used to use food as a reward. And we have to learn and start teaching our kids that there are so many other ways we can reward them with that are not food, or at least that don't have food as the main thing. So maybe someone has a good grade, and instead of just, oh, let's go for ice cream. Be like, you want to go to the zoo, or hey, let's go to the bouncy castle thingy, or do something active, and where you're like, you did that really well. We shouldn't necessarily reward ourselves after a hard long day, because then the kid grows up and the only way you know how to reward yourself is with food. And again, food can be part of a celebration, but it shouldn't be the main means to it. But I do think it is so important we start breaking that generational method or generational role modeling of poor food relationship, and start empowering our kids in the sense of, yeah, you look beautiful no matter what size you are or how you look, but this is more nutritious. It's going to make you feel better. It's going to be better for you in the long term. This is something you should have on occasion. If you want to have that chocolate now, you cannot have the ice cream after dinner. You pick one or the other. So they learn moderation to begin with, and not just be like, oh, you can have everything all the time, but at the same time also not being overly restrictive, because some parents, they don't allow their kids anything. So they grow up, and when they have access to that, first year in college or so, they gain 50 pounds because they suddenly gorge themselves on everything, right? So we don't want to show or fear monger, like you can never have that either. And I think, going back to something that you said earlier, really just like how we talk about food, and not saying this is bad, this is good, you can never have this is terrible, you're going to die if you have that, or, ugh, I look so fat today. That sticks in a child's head, even if they're two. Like, really watching how we talk to ourselves and talk about food with our kids around, I think that's super, super important.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I feel like that the whole rewarding yourself being food centered is definitely a shift, because even when you think of like a birthday, you automatically think, I need the cake. What kind of cake do you want? Or I need the cupcakes, or I need, like, it's automatically the food thought behind it. And you made me think, the time that I saw it, and I've heard this before, we talked about it before on the podcast, about rewarding yourself doing something differently besides with just food. Like, okay, am I going shopping? What am I going to treat myself? Am I going to go on a trip? Do I, like, what are the different ways that you still enjoy and reward yourself with doing things in life that doesn't necessarily have to deal with food? Like, food does not have to be the source. And I remember someone treating their child for having a great day of doing something, and it was, like you said, going for the ice cream, going for the which color. And I'm thinking, oh man, at such a young age, the seeds are already being planted. It's already about this. Oh, I did good. I'm gonna eat. I'm gonna eat something sugary. I'm eating something with dairy. I'm eating something that more than likely, as a little girl, going to create these habits and form these cycles around food that pretty much will in turn probably play a part on her menstrual cycle, on her reproductive health. And it's just kind of like, okay, well, you don't want to think like that. You want to think, what other things can she truly enjoy and have fun with it? I remember somebody having a watermelon birthday cake. Like, it was a watermelon cake instead. And it's like, that was a fruit they love. So, like, maybe you use a natural sugar, some fruit that they really enjoy, and get turned off of this mango, or something like that, or this water.
It can absolutely involve food. It really is about how we treat, or what it is. Like, go for a cooking class. That's fun too. Or if you're like, hey, you did really well, tonight we can prepare tacos together. And kids actually love being involved in the food preparation process. That way they also learn what the food looks like in its natural state, and how to treat it, and so on. So I'm not saying it should not involve food at all, but it's like, is that the main thing? And is it always something sugary? Is it always an excess until the kid feels basically nauseous in the end? Because that should not be the case.
Yes, ma'am. So what does a life you love and a body you love actually mean to you? And how do you help others get there?
It actually means to me just feeling like food makes my life even better, and is not a source of stress, of anxiety, of feeling gross about myself. So really just viewing it not just as fuel, but like, it enriches my life. That's really something, because I do think We all have so much to deal with. Life has its ups and downs. That's just how it is. But food does not need to be one of the sources that adds to the stress and adds to us putting pressure on ourselves. On the contrary. So the way that I like to teach that or enjoy teaching that to others is really in a balanced and moderate approach, and more through the way of education, of like showing them this is how much you should be eating or what your portion should be looking like, etc., so that they're making educated decisions and can basically change their body composition however they like, even 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. Whenever I work with someone, and I'm sure you go about it in the same way, my goal is that this person never has to work with another coach again, because now they have the knowledge of, maybe they get pregnant and afterwards they want to lose weight again, or maybe they want to add a little bit of muscle because they're starting to get older and notice that they're losing lean body mass. So they have the tools even 20 years down the road to like, okay, I probably should increase this and that intake a little bit so that I'm actually facilitating more muscle gain. And so that's really my main goal, to lead from an educated point of view.
Yeah, I want them to be educated so they know the science-backed reasoning behind what they're doing, what they're eating. And it kind of goes into this other part, Lisa, and I know we might have different approaches when it comes to how we help people because we have our own unique way of navigating it. For me, I don't like telling people exactly what to eat. Like, it's meal plan support, but I don't like telling them what to eat because I want them to feel confident on making the decisions on their own, thinking about what we're doing, how we're planning what they're eating based on what they might already have at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said before, adding to, getting another vegetable source in or something, because I never want them to be dependent on me to always come to me and be like, what should I eat? What should I eat? Should I have this? Should I have not? And it's all about guiding and support, but you still owning the decision-making process because it's your life, it's your journey. So even though the plant-based approach has helped me tremendously with energy, helped me with, less painful periods, less bloating, like less pain, more energy, like it might not be plant-based for you, but still an anti-inflammatory approach that still helps you reduce the inflammation that's possibly wreaking havoc in your body and being the root cause of what's causing your issues. And so I kind of wanted to mention that too, because I just wanted to know if you felt like that, but clearly you're the food freedom person. So I know you want people to be free when it comes to their food. Like,
amen. Yes.
We're going to get into this vitality spark. So it's a rapid round, closing round. So I want you to think quick, soulful responses to help inspire reflection and a little pickup of joy for our listeners. And we'll get into our last two questions. You ready?
Yep, sure am.
All right. One food you'll never give up no matter what.
Eggs. I do love eggs.
A belief you had to unlearn to create balance with food.
Carbs are good for you.
Your go-to grounding practice when stress creeps in.
Going for a walk.
What does feeling good in your body mean to you now?
It means having steady energy levels and not starving myself.
Finish this sentence. When I started trusting my body again, I finally
felt free.
Yes. All right, Lisa. So give some insights, some words of wisdom, encouragement to the girl dads, the role models, the father figures, the partners, the spouses of those dealing with intensive pelvic pain, heavy periods, bloating, fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis. Help bring them into this healing journey.
I think the more willing you are also to learn about your partner's body and what's actually going on with the female physiology, the better of a support you can be. And don't try to support in the same way that we don't want to reward our kids with food. If she's feeling PMSy or whatever, bringing home the huge tubs of ice cream and pizza to soothe her, it might be a nice thought, but it's not the best way to help. And instead, maybe asking, literally, like having more conversations. How can I support you the best with this? Do you want me to go grocery shopping? If you need to take a nap, like, can I take the kids off of your hands for this afternoon or whatever? Like having that open communication of like, how can I support you best? I think that's really empowering, because then we're also teaching the woman or the women to ask for more help and to express how they can help better. And I think that's really, communication is so often really the key to success.
Yes, ma'am. Last question. If you could have a meal with any historical figure, who would it be and what would y'all eat?
I would want to eat with Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor from 2000 something years ago. Firstly, because I love him as a philosopher and stoic. And second of all, I do like Italian and Roman culture and the history of that. So I would be very curious as to what they would be serving there. Probably some sort of Mediterranean dish. I don't know.
All right. Well, let everybody know where they can connect with you and go vibe with you, Lisa.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jovonnie. Honestly, it's been a wonderful conversation. And as I mentioned, my company name is Nutrition Coaching and Life. So you can find me under that name on the website. Instagram is where I'm most active on, YouTube, LinkedIn, and podcast is the Nutrition and Life podcast. And if you, as the listener, enjoyed this conversation, feel free to drop me a line and just say, hey, I listened to you on the Empowered Plates podcast and I have questions, or, whatever comment you feel like leaving me. So thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Greatly appreciate you coming and vibing with us. Y'all, ditch the extremes. This is about freedom with food, joy in your body, and real life wellness you can actually sustain at home or across the world. Y'all, it's your Healthy Habits and Lifestyle Coach Jovonnie, host of the Empire Plates, Empire Lives podcast. Thanks for vibing with me, y'all.